have a little. I made a little animation with Dio. Just start the thing off, so we'll let that play, and then make sure that these are going through, and that these are going through. Beautiful.
Okay. Do you want to drop the live stream link in the chat in case people want to watch there?
Yeah, let's see. I wonder where the best one. Probably Twitter. Everybody loves Twitter. Bump, 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 bump. There we go. No. See, and then we can drop that into chat. And then yes, if you click that link, you will see a animation momentarily. But we got a few people. What's up, new people? We got Ray, Philip, Alan. Welcome to the party. Octavia, yeah, I can shoot you a little speaker invite as well, so you're good to go. And then let's play these. Hi. Play this one. Beautiful. And here we have it. Okay. Welcome to round 6, I do believe. We have some very interesting developments with the internet exploding and some very interesting new additions to Claude Code, which we will go over both of those, and then a number of other interesting developments, and then we will have a guest spot with Brad at the end to go over a promptogramming framework, if you will, called dspy, that if you haven't heard of before, you will hear of now, and you will be much better off for the hearing. So yeah, Al, you got, I think we got you're good to go. Take it away if you got something.
Cool. So to kick things off, I want to talk about the crash on Monday, because that sucks for us, because we had like 3 or 4 different systems that all went down on the same day and had to scramble the whole day migrating. But the more interesting part about this, which I want to present here, is this new thing that came out called Expo. Not sure if anybody's seen this yet, but this particular LLM/reasoning model thing that these guys have created is really good at hacking. In fact, it does penetration testing better than most people. So this is it against basically staff engineer grades, and it seems to be beating them on everything. The Expo product has been now winning bug bounties probably like 5 to 6 times a day for the last 6 months, accelerating, obviously. And on Monday, we saw a bunch of systems go down. So the question to the group was kind of a, let's do a little warm up before we dig into all the deeply technical stuff. What do you think happened? Is this the AI getting out of the box? Is this some intern vibe coding? What's going on?
Yeah, at least on my side, I wouldn't necessarily put it past the intern vibe coding and prod, because as one does in 2025. That being said, I don't know. We've as for those of us who've been in the industry for a little bit, like this is not an entirely irregular thing. Like I can remember, 3 or 4 of them in the last few years. It doesn't happen all the time, but at least to me, it kind of highlights exactly how dependent we may or may not be on infrastructure that we don't run. And I think or my hope is that, like, if it's a new hacker model, or if it's some kind of corporate espionage, or if it's just things going down, my hope is that maybe people will start like giving alternatives to AWS the time of day, because my hope would be partially as like a yeah, Web3 could maybe do something here, but more like, do people actually care enough to do something that's like slightly less convenient than the default way to do it? if we assume that the default way to do it is AWS, which is not convenient or simple, anyways. So that's my thought on the matter, I suppose.
Yeah, we have now several fallbacks, which is I think paranoid, but now probably the smart way to do it.
Right.
It does bring up the decentralized AI thing, which I think could be interesting eventually, but there's a few angles there. Also, gives a good reason that everybody should probably self-host their own tribe nodes, which should help them keep all their telemetry safe.
There you go. There you go. He never forgets the CTA. Yeah, I know Tara and Octavia, you guys aren't as heavy on the engineering, but do you guys have any thoughts on like this large outages in online in general? Anything coming to mind on the topic?
I do recall some news article coming in earlier this year where AWS was like talking about automating a lot of their work. So I wonder whether they forgot to add code rabbits to the pipeline.
Yeah, it comes on the heels of them announcing a bunch of layoffs and saying they're going to use AI to take over everything, by the way. That's a bit of context.
Interesting.
It's just kind of nuts.
Very interesting.
It's kind of ironic in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to the point where, like, okay, like, yeah, Jeff Bezos can fire everybody and do this. So, like, what would it take for somebody who isn't a Jeff Bezos to, like, sufficiently automate it where they could provide a reasonably useful alternative, would be my thought, because I know, there's a bunch of like smaller-ish cloud stuff. I know there's some Koi stuff. There's Accurast comes to mind. There's like a few kind of other options out there, and I think my hope would be that eventually people get fed up enough to explore them a little bit, I guess.
I heard from a number of data center operators and people who are in kind of the IT hosting space that they are definitely moving off of AWS, which is kind of fascinating. Because a bunch of people had to migrate their stuff because of this on Monday. This actually, Tribe is now basically off of Versal, which is helpful. And that's, I think that's probably going to be a bit of a trend, but we'll see. It could be a very interesting time to be setting up warehouses full of GPUs.
Yes. Yeah, I actually have a note about that, though, for once we get to our Gemini-related updates. Yeah, no, I agree. It's nice to have a little push in the right direction to kick off a migration. You never want to, do it. And yes, we all want a warehouse full of GPUs, really. Yeah, I think, speaking of, I know that Kev, who did the presentation last week, just got a DGX Spark. So, and I have him, he set up a Discord bot so we can just jam around with it at some point in the near future. So, look forward to that one. But yeah, between compute and cloud, there's some interesting questions about, okay, what do we do when things start going wrong? Which perhaps is a good segue to when vibe coding in prod or using Claude Code or whatever, oftentimes things will go wrong, but a good way to prevent or at least know what's coming with regard to that is a new feature that just got added to Claude Code this week called sandboxing, which I believe, Octavia, you were going to explore a little bit. Did you end up having time to play around with that?
Yeah, it's kind of, I didn't have too much time, but I checked it out and I just prompted it right now to create a dashboard on that's analyzing AWS downtime. And it basically did it at lightning speed. Which is fun. With minimal supervision. It does seem like it's spinning out. It's kind of like a cross between a virtual environment and a virtual machine. It's unclear whether it's operating locally or it seems like it's local to my conversation. It's tied to my account on Claude Code. that's kind of it.
It definitely is. I think in reading the documentation, as far as my understanding goes, so they have the way that you can access this at home is by opening Claude Code and then running /sandbox. Now I haven't tried to do that yet, but I remember when I was reading their article on the topic, because they do have one, and I thought I had it around here somewhere. I think it's this
Wait,
one.
can I link to my conversations on Claude Code?
On Claude Code, you could not prior to today, but now you can, in theory.
Yeah, okay, let's see.
So this is, I guess,
Or I can just upload the dashboard into the chat. I guess that would make it faster. Yeah, this is what Claude generated just now.
Nice.
Me straight up just saying, run sandbox, and then give me a quick demo of the sandbox utility that I can show off in a Discord meeting. And then as you guys were talking about the AWS downtime, I was like, add data on reported AWS downtime. I was hoping it would pull more than just like the most recent.
Yeah, is that running
data,
on
but
your machine at the moment? I'll stop sharing and you can screen share it out if so we can actually see the real thing.
And oh yeah, let me show you.
Yeah. I have the bigger. Yeah, I thought the interesting thing to me about the sandbox functionality, I was trying to find the article. I have it around somewhere. But they use the sandbox. I think the entry point to the sandbox for Claude is just a sandboxed bash tool. So I think what they do is they spawn a container and then they have two separate bash tools, and one is for the file system that's inside the container and then the other that's not, but the primary entry point is bash as far as my understanding goes.
It looks like it, but anyway, I don't know why it just doesn't render over here. But I just shared. Yeah, hold on, let me do it again with the entire screen. Hi. Okay. So I just like straight up was like run sandbox. It's saying I have an operating system that's, I guess, spun out over here. I haven't tried to like leave this area. It's claiming that it can run Python scripts and Node.js scripts. Then I just like, you're like, give me a demo. And that demo kind of looks like this.
Okay.
But I mean, it doesn't do anything. Like, I can't.
I think to me,
I can't, like,
the things that are coming to mind of when I would use this, because like end of the day, if what I want is a dashboard, I don't have to use a sandbox for that. I can just do that wherever. But
Yeah.
where I think sandboxing can be particularly useful is in JavaScript or Python projects, because if you need to install a new dependency, you don't know what kind of vulnerabilities you're introducing into your machine via PyPy, and especially if you're going to let Claude do something like that, you probably want to isolate it. So I would think that normally, like if I have that kind of security posture, then I'm probably just going to spin up a Docker container and then manually install the thing, and then like just make sure kind of the code is working as I expect it. But what seems interesting to be able to do to me is to kind of like audit a package where you can go like, rather than just spawning a container, you can go like, hey, can you install this JavaScript thing from NPM, and then can you like audit this system after you've installed it and tell me exactly what that thing is doing to my file system, which I think can
That
be
makes sense.
like a nice little one-shot thing to sort of keep in the back pocket, I think.
So what I used it for was, I guess, to give me a breakdown of the AWS downtime outage. So I guess it's given me the response here of the root cause.
Interesting.
I don't know how it came out.
This does seem like this seems like a good way to use the dangerously skipped permissions flag for Claude. It's just to always have it in a sandbox and let it run on AWS or on like Anthropic's hosting. Cue Anthropic downtime when the virus gets out, but it's pretty interesting.
Enjoy
Yeah,
your
let's
NPM
see.
packages.
Let's see. How can I make Anthropic downtime?
Can you
Happen.
break the infrastructure on which you are currently running?
I can break the internet right now.
I love it. I love it.
Oh no. Oh, it figured out it's illegal. Okay, well, anyway. Cute feature. Okay, bye.
Yeah. No, very
Enjoy.
interesting stuff. I will point out real quick that they have actually released the Sandbox runtime as an open source project. So, for further details on what the guts of it are and how it works, you can actually go and look at the code, which is very handy, I think. Also, I think this is a solid point. MCP servers. So currently one of the big issues with MCP is they are wildly insecure, and pretty much anybody can register one and get one installed, etc., etc. So it can be useful rather than just like YOLOing a cool sounding MCP directly onto your home folder. It could be wise to sandbox it a little bit first, and it looks like they have some nice like logging and network traffic stuff. And then there is also, I was just reading, there's a sandbox, and then there's a less secure sandbox, I believe, is what they were saying in the documentation. But yeah, I think that's a very welcome feature. Let's see, what did we have up next?
Hey, morning.
What up, Rome? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. Very early, but it's okay. I like the discussion that I've been jumping in. Is sandboxing a new thing? I think I missed it. I saw the dashboard for the async one, but I didn't see that they had one in Cloud Code.
What do you
Or
mean
is
by
it the same
dashboard
thing?
for async?
They said like the dashboard that you were showing, the other tab,
Oh,
like the one where you can launch it and defer it online.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, this guy. So this is the three, I guess, yeah, to go over the three primary changes to Claude Code this week. One is sandboxes, the next one is skills, and then the last one is web Claude, and then the honorable mention is interactive questions, and I have little bits on all of those. But web Claude's kind of cool.
Okay.
Have you used that one yet?
Not yet, but I tried to build this actually,
Oh, really?
like a month prior, because I told you, like last time we discussed, I told you how I always had this use case for cursor background agents. I'm always on the go, and I like to keep eye on things that are happening and kind of still get things done before I get home and like review them. And when I saw Cloud Code, I was like, okay, what if I could spin up just automatically a container on the fly, similar to cursor background agent, have a script that pulls Cloud Code, installs it, gets my repo, like clones it and starts working, right? Find a way to kind of spin them out on the fly. I tried to build this with Replit, and yeah, I couldn't get it to run. And then I spoke to Josh, from Eliza.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw also, you guys have ever seen Happy, the tool that allows you to pick up your Cloud Code from mobile?
I've seen several tools like that. I don't know if I've seen that one specifically, but I'm familiar with
Yeah, so Happy is kind of the codex version that some guys did to Cloud Code that are like engineers in SF. Look at like Happy Cloud Code.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that one. Yeah, so Josh was then working on how does he get this running inside a confidential VM that you can run on the fly, and he went pretty wild with it, and in the end ended up building like a whole thing where he has this basically running inside a TEE, that you can spin up Cloud Code inside and kind of have a not only isolated but also secure environment in which this is running.
Yeah, no, that's actually very interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I think because I've used my version of this, or I too have been exploring that this week of like, okay, I want to be able to, when I leave the house, like be able to just keep working. So the way that I have approached that is I also use the cursor background agents a lot, and then I use the Codex and the Claude. I have Claude GitHub Action. I have Codex app that's installed, so I can just app that to review my PRs. And then I use Zellage or Zellage for my terminal multiplexer, and what that lets me do is create a terminal
Teamups.
browser session. Um,
Oh yeah, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it is a thing that serves the same purpose as Tmux is just a little. It's like a different sort of approach to it. But one of the things that it does is it lets you do your. It lets you spawn a browser web session that is your terminal session. So for me, I more or less already had this. But one of the cool things that I found with this, mostly just because it's I don't know, it's novel. So I gave it a couple of instructions here. I have also changed my breadcrumb. I am now Young Gradient instead of Grand Galactic Inquisitor. Highly recommend breadcrumbs so you can figure out if Claude is paying attention to your Claude MD or not. Fun fact. But you see this open in CLI button right here. What's kind of nice is you can take that, and then you can, let me see if I can swap my screen over and show you guys. Change stream to this, go live on that. Okay, you got my terminal?
Yeah.
Cool. If I can, oh no, I hate it. Let me see. This should work though. There we go. And what this will do is pop my terminal Claude into my web session.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so now you can just kind of like port your session around wherever it is you need to go, which is kind of nice. Yeah, like we had several sort of hackier solutions across the ecosystem, but it's kind of nice to have this thing natively integrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, this beats all the teamuxing. The teamuxing was getting very painful.
I don't know that I would say it beats it, but I am glad that they have a built-in alternative for people who don't want to do it. My opinion, I think the kinds of customizations and unlocks that you get out of sort of manually setting up your own sort of Tmux orchestration system is more than just being able to port these sessions. But for session portability, I think the two things here, they kind of all work well together in that you now can sandbox, you now have a cloud environment, you now can port freely between cloud and local, and then man, I had a last thing, but I definitely just forgot what it was. But something about skills, I think, which is the next thing that I wanted to touch on.
You know what's funny on this is they basically reproduced Cursor's features like 4 months later.
They kind of are all doing that, I'm noticing.
Yeah, but Cursor was like the first one when they released background agents, and it worked really well altogether because you could pick up your session directly in your IDE from the cloud. Like it really was working really well. I still use it, but just less of a use case for now. But I kind of started coming back to it. I tried to do, since our last meeting, I tried Factory, by the way.
Oh, really?
Amazing on the CLI. Yeah, Droid is amazing in the CLI. I used it with GLM 4.6.
Yeah.
But their cloud thing doesn't work.
What do you mean their cloud thing doesn't work? Oh, they're like on the
It doesn't work for me.
website?
Just yeah, I tried on the web droids, and I tried to get it to index one repo, just one repo, and I think it's still indexing 2 weeks later.
Yeah, it in theory, it's a great idea as to have that Basically, my read of that web platform is like they really want to give you a place to sort of act as your like command center to manage all of the integrations, and then the terminal client is much more for like, I have droids in this code base, I am working on writing code. But the other ones, I found it quite useful to be able to go into the web client, make use of the integrations like Slack and Google Drive, etc. And then I need to test this part and make sure it actually worked. But you can, when you're in the web client, you get a different context manager than you would in the terminal session. And so I can pull in context from Google Drive and from Slack, et cetera, and then I should be able to pick up that session in my terminal client. So if I need to go grab some context from another integration location, then I can have that happen on my coding CLI session too, which is kind of sort of enhances that portability thing, which I guess seems to be the incidental side topic of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to me, the big one this week for Cloud Code was skills. Have any of you guys played with skills at all?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yes. Yeah, it's like brand spanking new, so I don't blame you. I don't feel like you gotta catch it up.
No, I saw it. I just haven't had the chance. And I also didn't like that it was sharing context with the main agent. So I stuck with sub agents for now.
Yeah,
I know they're different purposes though.
Yeah, I think they are. They both do kind of different. They do context management, subagents, and skills, but they just do it differently. The thing behind skills is progressive disclosure. So by default, you see that like name and description. By default, the only thing that's in Claude's context window is just this little thingy here, and I think maybe this little longer description here too. And then when Claude wants it, it can decide to bring in the full skill MD, which is like a larger document. I think I have. Let me think about where I put that. No, we'll do that later. But larger document, it can decide it wants to pull that in, and then you can, in your primary skill.md, you can reference other docs like you can in your Claude MD. So you can go like at skill executor.py or whatever, and then when Claude invokes the references, sort of bring into context action, for lack of a better term, then it'll bring in all of the reference stuff. So it's nice to have, at least for me, one of the big issues that I have with subagents and MCP is that it's very, it's not transparent what those things are doing to my context window, and then if it's doing something that I don't want, it's difficult for me to wrangle it into actually doing it. But these have since they have a built-in sort of like context conservation sort of default frame, which is that's like one of the things that I like about it. For skills, the other thing that they do is yes, you can add like MD, like references, resources, etc. You can also add executable code, and then in that skill MD, you can tell Claude when and how and what it should expect from executing that code. If I'm not mistaken, although I should double check, I believe the only thing that it's going to get into context from a skill invocation is the output of this. I don't think it necessarily will bring the Python code here directly into context or not. Yes, GPT says keep skill.md lean. And then, yeah, the primary kind of use case is to be able to codify structured workflows, which I think is, I remember, and Odie will remember this one too, people oftentimes when they're working with agents will repeatedly ask, how do I get it to guaranteed to do the same thing every time? Because it always does weird, random little extra stuff for no reason. I just want it to do the one thing. That is what skills are for, essentially. Which, kind of surprising that it took Anthropic this long to really implement something like that. But but I think there's a lot of power that you can get out of these things because you have both execution and you have progressive disclosure.
And code, yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot of control over what this is doing to your context window, which is why I like it. One of the things I found out was the /plugin command is now a thing in Claude Code. So you can, when Claude Code is open, you can just run /plugin marketplace add Anthropic skills, and then you can install example skills or document skills. And that comes from this repo, and it makes use of the new of the plugin marketplace behavior, which I think we touched on last week. I don't know if we went too deep on it. And then let's see. I'm gonna try and zoom through this here. Yeah, don't install random stuff. This is a bunch of patterns that I've been exploring. Essentially, the thing that occurred to me and what makes skills particularly interesting for me, or the way that the first way I'm trying to approach it, is I want Claude to be able to modify its own configuration. So the basic premise behind the skills that I'm starting with are like, hey, you can generate new skills, you can clear your context window, you can change your MCP config, you can generate a subagent, you can generate a / command, you can generate a new hook, you can change an interaction style, and then there's like a specific part of my workflow where I have it do a lot of delegation to GLM 4.5 via Droid, and so there's like that option too, which I think, or which I am interested to see how it goes, because I'm very much of the mind that Claude is going to be better at prompting Claude than I am. So this should be a good way to test that, I think.
Doesn't it need to reload in order for it to take effect?
It will, yes, for some of the stuff. I have...
Like the MCP one needs to.
Yes, yeah, so MCP will need to. But what I do have, since the skills can execute code, I haven't tested to see if it actually works yet or not, but in theory, part of the skill execution can be like capture session ID, close Claude code, then run Claude -- continue to reload the config change that you've made. So in theory, there should be that, but worst case, I might have to like give him a thing that says like he needs to poke me when he makes a change like that, basically. And then primarily what I've been doing to sort of get that figured out is a sort of notebook LM based workflow, which I think is interesting for getting things. Basically, I dropped a bunch of docs that it's going to need into here, and then I would uncheck everything but one of these papers, and I would recheck it, and I would say, hey, I have skills now. There's docs in your docs about that. Pull me out any skills from this paper, and so that make it so I can use them in Claude, kind of thing, is the general approach that I have.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I am not certain how. I'm not certain how effective it'll be, but if it is effective, then it'll be really, really nice to be able to just kind of like drop it in and pull stuff out of it too.
Yeah, it seems like the real trick here would be giving subagent configs certain skills with them, and having those be like one of the ones that I use a lot is check git status and check git history for particular files. If I'm trying to figure out what got broken or something, has been taken off course. And that seems like that could be something that can be very repeatable, but I'm often having to correct the agents, or I'm having to correct the process, which I think this could fit in really well for. I just dropped this link in the chat. Do you want to open that really quick?
Sure, let's take a look.
Not a link, it's a doc. I think it could be applicable. I've been playing with this, the forum concept for the last few days, which... The general idea of this is often I like to get a whole bunch of subagents with like Haiku 4.5 to go out and read my code base and look for things or even research the web. And they kind of go out like snipers, and they're very fast, but also very low context, so they have to be loaded up with the right information. And it seems like if you equip the sub-agents with the skills, I can kind of see where Anthropic's going with this, right? It's a very different model from how everybody else does it.
Yeah, I think the with regards to, man, I thought I put the thing. Well, shoot. Oh well.
Like this reminds me a lot of the invention disclosure I made at SRI in 2024, where I was basically like, yeah, so like, you know, if in the if you have a system prompt that like describes capabilities, then like the text that will be generated will be in accordance to those capabilities only. And I do believe I used the word skill that disclosure.
There we have it. Octavia called it, and Anthropic's copying her.
True. Many such cases. Many such cases, honestly.
Right place, wrong time.
So the principle of this forum process is I'm using a .md file as a database. I'm hoping to actually put a database in as an option. But what the .md file ends up doing is all the subagents have to finish their work and then put it back into the .md file in a standardized format, which means that the parent agent doesn't actually have to read any of the information until the end. So you can do like 6 rounds of subagents on this .md file, and the subagents only read the current file and the context of what's going on in the conversation. And then their job is to go find research in the code base, and they have to reply with citations. So they have to cite either the code base or a web URL when they make a statement in the document. And this leads to this very interesting spiral up kind of thing. And it seems to work quite well. I got it to write a bunch of sales copy for us yesterday, and that was really efficient. I had it research like 5 different customer personas and competitors and things like that, and it came back with like really, really strong, like deep research level kind of conversation. I think the thing with this that would be really helpful is to standardize how the agents do that work, because otherwise the parent agent has to go and think through that whole process of like what the subagent's instructions should be. And if you give them the right skills, it seems like that wouldn't need to be that wouldn't need to be a token burner every time.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think for one of the, I guess, things that might have kind of gone under the radar a little bit, I think, is the addition of the Explore subagent specifically. If you haven't, go try telling Claude, deploy multiple Explore subagents in parallel. You have to say Explore subagent specifically. If you just say subagent, it'll use a generic one. But the Explore subagent is really nice because Haiku is really fast, and basically the idea behind the Explore one is all of the like picking through files and like reading a bunch of stuff. You can offload all of that to Haiku and then have Haiku like build a context bundle and then throw like 3 or 4 of those out to go research everything that you might need in this code base, so that you only end up with that block from the subagent in the filling the window, basically.
Yeah, that's kind of the principle. It's a way of constructing the context for your primary agent, which in my case is Opus, where I'm very careful about what goes into that context window, because I ran out of Opus credits in like 2 days last week, for example. So then I started getting very into subagents, and I've been using only subagents in Sonnet 4.5 all week this week. And Sonnet 4.5 actually performs pretty well when it works this way. It's just when it sees too much stuff that might be a direction to go, then it has to go chase down all those like loose ends, because like Sonnet's very creative.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to do that very well. But if you let Haiku do that, then Haiku can actually go and like do all those little tasks, and Sonnet seems to stay on track, which is kind of like, I guess, giving Sonnet a secretary so that it doesn't get lost, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, no, and he has been in dire need of a secretary. At first,
Oh yeah, for sure.
At first, he didn't even have.
You get context anxiety.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Which if anybody hasn't heard, it actually does. Sonnet 4.5 specifically, it has been trained to be aware of its own context window. So you'll notice that once that context window starts getting full, it'll start dropping a lot more MD files all over your repo. Give it a try sometime if you haven't.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like, oh, let me do this recap of the bug I just fixed, and we do this, and then you end up with like 20 MD files you didn't ask for.
Oh yeah, I love it.
But I like the interactive questions, the one that you have on the screen. I think the questions are actually, especially in plan mode, they're actually relevant.
Interesting.
And I like how it gives you very, especially I use Plot Code at work. And with the right context, you can get it to work even with internal libraries it has never seen, right? You just need to like structure it properly and make it so that you have enough documentation, whatever. But what's interesting is it's like you then see, okay, interactive question, do you want to use internal API 1 or internal API 2 for this option, or something else that you can type? And I find that like the whole UX is pretty interesting for that one.
Yeah, I think I think that I haven't actually I haven't been able to elicit that behavior yet. I'm told that or when I was reading, it seems to happen a lot more often in plan mode, but I'm interested to see kind of how it ends up. Basically how good Sonnet is at being aware of whether or not it's in trouble and needs to come ask me stuff or not, basically. That's mostly what I'm curious about.
I saw it's only doing it in plan mode so far. I have never seen it do it in like action mode or agent mode or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Well, cool. I am noticing we are about at 15, so I wanted to open the floor for Brad over here, who is going to give us clue us in about dspy and what it is and how it works and all that good stuff. So I guess my initial prompt for you, Brad, is I know you brought some stuff, but is there anything related to either new Claude Code updates or anything that we've just gone over that seems dspy applicable? Where my head is going is skills, but I'll let you meander as you wish.
Well, I think you could definitely write the skills using dspy. If you can track like whether a skill accomplishes a certain task, if you have some sort of metric on the skill, whether it's accomplishing it or not, you can definitely use an optimizer to like write that skill essentially. There are also other libraries. I came across this other library built on top of dspy by Amazon, and that one is more for prompt optimization. I can find the link if you'd like, but it's it's Nova Prompt Optimizer. That's it.
There we go.
This one might be good for making a skill.
Oh yeah, this looks like it's going to be hot. Absolutely. Input adapters, yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, do you want to pull up your notebook and show us around a little bit on what the sort of like basic kind of core pillars of dspy are?
Sure. It's not letting me share my screen right now.
That's because I got to hit the stop button, which will totally work. There we go. Okay, yeah, you should be good. There we go. Perfect. Chat, if you can't see it, let me know, but I can see it. So hopefully we're good.
Can everyone see this?
Beautiful.
Okay, so I have a little demo of Stock News Sentiment Analyzer where we're basically going to extract the sentiment, key events, and price catalysts from financial news articles. And this is going to demonstrate class-based dspy signatures with type fields and LLM as a judge for evaluation and the JEPA optimizer for improving the prompt quality. I wanted to say the most important part of dspy is not the optimizer, it's actually the signatures. The signatures basically are a way to get away from writing prompts manually. Basically, if you can define like inputs and outputs in a signature, you can essentially optimize the signature, and then you don't actually have to write any prompts. Like everyone knows there's all kinds of hacks for improving prompts. Like you can tell the LLM, oh, you'll get a cookie if you do this, or there's all kinds of hacks like that. I was listening to Omar talk about it, and he was talking about prompts like it was assembly language. Like it's a low-level language we should not be touching. We should be operating on a higher, more abstract level. So with that in mind, let's jump into this notebook. Okay, so this first cell, we basically just initialize the LLM. We're using GPT-5 Nano for the inference, and for the judge, we're going to use the normal GPT-5. So GPT-5 is going to be teaching Nano and helping it to get better. Let's run that. Okay. Here is the training set with examples. Basically, these are examples of news items. The input is going to be this, the news string, and then the output are these other fields: expected sentiment, expected catalyst, expected risks. You define what the input is with the dot with inputs. So that's the training set. And here's where we define the signature, and this is the most important part of dspy by far. There's two ways of defining a signature. There's like a shorthand way where you can just do it in one little string, and then there's the typed version, which is a lot better in my opinion. So basically, you're defining inputs and outputs. So the input is going to be the financial news article text, and the outputs are going to be the sentiment, the key events, the price catalyst, and the risk factors. And this is how we get away from writing prompts, essentially. We're just trying to figure out what's going into the model and what's coming out.
My question here would be is how does this differ from structured output?
dspy sometimes uses structured output to actually do this, and sometimes not, depending on the model. But this is similar to structured output, but structured output, like structured output isn't going to necessarily like optimize the prompt. So something like that Jason Liu guy's library, I'm blanking on the name of it. That library does not, like, that library outputs structured output, but it does not optimize the prompts.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. In that you can, with structured output, you can provide the shape, but then the missing piece there, so you kind of have like a signature, but what you don't have is the optimizer kind of things. Oh, it's
yes.
Yeah.
And then we're basically defining a module, where a module is like basically a Lego brick in dspy. We're feeding in the signature we just defined up here, and we're using chain of thought, which is itself another module, which comes with dspy. So this is basically how the module is going to run. And then let's test, we're going to test this before we actually optimize. So it's saying this is, you can run dspy without the optimizer, with just the signature and the module. So this is just showing how it already works basically without optimization yet. So here we're defining the judge, LLM as a judge, which is GPT-5. And GPT-5 is basically going to be saying, hey, this output is better than that output. And this is how we're going to optimize the signature and the module, actually. So here's the signature up here for the judge. I'm not going to go through all the fields, but a lot of them are inputs and only two are outputs. We're getting the score out, and we're getting the feedback out. And here's where we define the module, how we call it basically. And then we're instantiating the module here. And we're setting the LLM here.
So those input fields are going to be an instance of the thing that we want to metricify, and then the output for this LLM as a judge is going to be like, now you have an extra data point if you were to plot the metrics, and then the idea is let's, based on this metric, optimize for this signature. Is that kind of the flow?
Yes, these inputs are basically the outputs of the previous signature we defined up here. So it's the outputs are key events, price catalyst, risk factors, and those are going to be the inputs. We're basically using the outputs and feeding them into the judge, and then the judge is saying, oh, this is good or bad. So here, down here, we're defining the actual metric, where the judge predicts the score. And then here, down here, we are actually running the optimizer. So you can actually run it with multi-threading right here. And I'm doing that. I'm using 32 calls in parallel. And you can set a max metric calls so it doesn't run forever. So I only set 100, so it does it pretty quick.
Do you happen to know what the like what is JEPA doing here? Is it training a model? Is it running prompts? Is it modifying logics? Or not? No.
JEPA is actually a genetic algorithm, and it's creating prompts. And I believe it's like splitting the prompts apart and like exchanging them with other prompts. So it's using a genetic algorithm to basically optimize the prompts. I don't know the specifics of how it does that, but that's basically, on a high level, that's basically what's happening. So basically, it just optimized, and now that module, news analyzer, is optimized. So now we can test after the optimization. And basically, we're getting the right fields we want, like news, sentiment, key events, catalysts, and risks. And now we're going to compare the performance between the pre-optimized module and the optimized one.
Analyzer data set.
So we got a 9% improvement, basically, on the scoring. It was already scoring very well. Sentiment analysis isn't like exactly a hard problem for these models, especially the new ones. So 9% is a decent gain for this problem.
How many news did you load in your val set?
Not much. It was only like a few examples. Because JEPA takes, I didn't want it to take like hours for it to optimize, essentially.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's that the LLM as a judge is providing a metric by which to gauge the output of the first module, and then JEPA is running, because you invoked JEPA on those modules, because you have the metric maker and then you have the actual material. The JEPA is going to do an evolutionary search process of some kind by generating additional items and then hunting for like the one that best fits the metric that we've chosen, which is LLM as judged. Am I following it so far?
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's exactly right.
How is this different from just context learning?
I'm not sure what is. Can you give me more information on that?
Yeah, the idea of in-context learning is like a few-shot prompt, where a model may not be able to zero-shot a task, but if you give it a few examples of a completed task, then it becomes much better at it.
Well, with that, you're still writing it by hand, and you don't know if those examples, if you have a metric and you can gauge, like, if you have a metric, then you basically can say, oh, this prompt's better than that prompt. But if you don't have a metric, you don't really know if it's better. So that's the main difference. We have a metric here, and we're optimizing on that metric, while just providing examples providing examples might not be enough. There might be like there might be different orderings of the prompts that might make a difference. There's all kinds of things, all kinds of combinations of the prompt that are unexplored that we can't really write by hand. Like this, JEPA is exploring like thousands of different prompts.
Yeah, I'm interested. Is there a way for us to see either the end result optimized prompt, like the actual contents of the prompt, or any of the like while it was searching any of the candidate options?
Yes, we can see the candidates. Let me
Sweet.
let me remove this.
To buy you some time here, my understanding of ICL versus something like dspy is dspy can make use of in-context learning, but essentially what dspy is doing when you do something like create a metric and a signature and then choose an optimizer for that metric, then that process can involve things like in-context learning, things like logic bias, things like token weighting.
So it's kind of like metric learning on top of in-context learning?
Yes, but there's more than just in context, like Yikes is saying.
Yeah, so it's like it is what it's doing is it's optimizing for a metric, right? So it's kind of like you're sort of hacking in RL to a thing that wouldn't normally RL, and like the very hacky way to do that might be like just in context learn off of a few prompts and then like look at the prompt and see if it's a good one or not. But if you were to add like a bit more structure to that, you could do things like in context learning and then change the candidate examples and then do evolutionary search over which candidate examples that you should use and modify the logic bias such that you cannot produce tokens that are outside of the shape, etc., etc. So it's at least to me, like in context learning is a component of dspy. You could do this, do the same process with just ICL if you wanted to, but it would be hard.
And also, what's interesting here, I don't know if you guys saw the every video. I don't know if I shared it last time on this, but this evolved over time. So the guy was talking about how he uses the same process to evolve the prompt over 6 months as the context of what the work has been done has been evolving. So that way you kind of like, it's a way to structurally improve the prompt as the context changes, right? Whereas in context learning, it kind of, learns from a specific context, which is a point in time. So if 3 months later, the business context has actually changed for the process that this has been optimized for, then you have to run it all over again. Whereas with dspy, he just runs it periodically and the prompts evolve as the examples and the outputs, inputs evolve as well.
And also to go one step further, if you switch your model, you don't have to rewrite your prompt. You don't have to mess around with it. You just run the optimizer again. So it makes it super easy to switch around between models.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think that's actually like a fairly major selling point for dspy is that if I write a prompt and I feed it to Claude versus feeding it to Codex, I'm going to get very different outputs. But if I write a dspy module, if I write a dspy program, I can put whatever model I want into it. It's always going to be the same. It's always going to optimize for the metric that I've defined for it.
This is cool. And the metric is just the judge, or can we go back on?
You can write any metric you want, basically, but here you can write like any metric you want, but here we're using LLM as a judge, as a metric. So
you're optimizing for score, basically.
Yeah. So you could do something like like pull like a k nearest neighbors and then like rank in order of semantic similarity or something like that if you wanted to instead of the judge there, right? Am I following?
Exactly. You can do whatever you want as long as it outputs, something discrete.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, question for you. Sorry, go ahead, Olivia.
Oh, I was just saying, this kind of reminds me of this paper I just stumbled into. Came out this month on verbalized sampling, so you can like supposedly improve or rather mitigate mode collapse if you just like ask them if you prompt the model to instead of giving you just one answer, give you multiple answers and include the likelihood, I think.
Yeah, I have a notebook with that paper in it that I'm actually going to see if I can extract some skills from. We will see how that goes. But I thought I have a little note on it here. But I think it's generally the same or a similar principle in that. Let me see if I can find the thingy. Verbalized sampling for mitigating mode collapse. Okay, yeah, so mode collapse occurs because post-training alignment methods like RLHF tend to amplify typicality bias. So yeah, I would think that it would actually make a good dspy module, like a verbalized sampler dot optimizer, because instead of JEPA, which is doing the evolutionary search to find the best prompt, what verbalized sampling does is if you make modifications to a given prompt, then especially if you're synthesizing or taking human preference data, then you end up with a lot of these biases and you get a lot of like sameness, for lack of a better term. So the idea with VS is to sort of like inject entropy when you start losing it, such that you get a selection of prompts that are sufficiently different from each other so as not to add bias to the resulting model that you get from doing that RL effectively.
Yes. Yeah. So it sounds like this VS part is kind of doing a little bit of the work of the genetic algorithm.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I think they're sort of like as part of the full pipeline of producing these kind of analysis sets. I would think that you could use a JEPA, or you could presumably either replace or augment that with verbalized sampling. In that, the other thing that was interesting to me, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Brad. For dspy modules, it looks as though they're fairly composable, right? So if I were to make a let's say I'm taking your program, and then I make a different one, and that uses my verbalized sampling optimizer rather than your JEPA optimizer. I could, for instance, have my dspy program like try to perform some kind of optimization as like I could treat your program as a module in mine, kind of thing.
Yes, and that's exactly what we're doing here. This chain of thought is a module,
Yep.
and we're calling the module here. There's also .predict, which is just normal inference, but here we're using a module here, and we can actually use multiple modules and optimize them all together. So that's an option.
That's very interesting.
I also wanted to mention one other thing about the structured output. This works with models that don't do structured output. So basically, it can tweak the prompt so it's forcing out structured output without that being like built into the model. So that's great because you can basically take your prompts to pretty much any model, even ones that don't support structured output. So I wanted to mention that.
No, that is a very good. I think one of the selling points for dspy, at least in my head, is like, if I write a prompt, I'm kind of locked into my model, and as soon as my model provider updates my model, then my model behavior is going to change. So I'm going to have to keep manually updating this prompt. But once I write a dspy module, it's just like that forever, which is very nice to be able to
Yeah.
to be able to store things long term and be able to rely on outputs like that. I guess I think my final question for the dspy session is, in terms of you using dspy or making things in dspy, like what's your favorite or most interesting thing, or where you found dspy to be most helpful in a problem you were actually trying to solve, actually for real? It would be my inquiry. Like, where does this actually work at work?
Well, it works anywhere you have a lot of data, where you know what the inputs and outputs are, and where you have like a very well-defined problem. So, I'm trying to think what's a good example. This can be used for like, for example, like playing with like prompt injection. That's very like definable whether like a certain prompt is causes an issue or not. But I'm trying to think. There has to be better examples.
Can I ask one actually? Can I ask one? I have a very concrete problem that I'm fixing we're fixing for a client, and I was thinking of using dspy for this. So we're partnering, so we have this headhunters that we're building agents for that will assist with scheduling between candidates and the firms, right? So the long back and forth that goes, oh, I'm available this and this, and then the guy replies, oh, sorry, I cannot make, I can make only this. So the headhunter spends countless time going back and forth. So we have these agents that are going between them on email and WhatsApp to kind of get them to find a match and then send out confirmations and whatnot, right? Now, where I need to optimize the prompt is sometimes the agent forgets to be a bit more pushy with the candidate. For example, when people would be like oddly non-specific, like for example, he will say, yes, I can do Tuesday 28 at lunchtime, which doesn't mean anything, right? Like you kind of I need the agent to be able to force it to reply and say, sorry, lunchtime is not a specific hour. Do you mean 12 or 1? And then, but with the prompts we have at the moment, I managed to kind of trick it to still go back to the client, even if I haven't given a specific hour, right? So my question to Brad is, do you think this could be something that could be dspy could be used to optimize the prompt for?
I think it's definitely possible. There you might want to look at a module called React. So they have the React agent architecture built in, and that might be useful for that for your issue, for your problem. But I'd have to think more about it.
Yeah, happy to DM you, or if you have any thoughts. I was particularly interested to join this session just because I was thinking about using this to optimize.
The way I'm thinking about it is, what you could do is like a before conversation closes kind of check of based on this conversation, and you just plop the whole conversation into context. I need you to extract these. I need you to extract this object, and that object is going to have like is going to have times in it, like actual concrete times. Then you would have I would think that you would have the optimizer optimize for a like, I am accurately given a given conversation, extracting the fields accurately from the conversation, or notifying that the conversation needs to continue if I can't extract them, kind of thing.
So kind of a gatekeeper where okay, I see what you mean. So kind of a evaluator agent that evaluates the guy, says, hey, no, actually you still need to go back and ask more questions.
Yeah, I would think, or yeah, and I don't know. Does that? I wonder if I'm fuzzy on one of the components there or not. But what I would think that you could do is you could, let's say you have 10 example conversations, and then the metric that you could use is probably LLM as judge for does this conversation contain all of the facts necessary to fill out this object, which has the time in it, and then the then you could optimize for let's see, conversation shapes that do succeed in that, I would think, and then you would want to like classify these conversations, and then you would say like, hey, you have to keep the conversation going until the classifier says that we can successfully extract all this information.
I think maybe it's a bit overkill when you think about it, because there is not a lot of like from what we've been working on and just manually optimizing the system prompt, we're already in a good place. It's just those edge cases, like when somebody says lunchtime like this and the agent doesn't push back. Those are the ones that are trickier. The way we've been optimizing it is we've been asking the agent to save kind of in an Airtable kind of a key value object, right? And the way it works is there is a loop that's just an if node in N8N that just basically says, do you have the three values? If not, then it just sends back to the agent, and then the agent starts again. Like that's kind of how we solved it. But yeah, I was curious to see maybe what I could start to do is exporting all the examples of the conversation runs that we've had, and then try to find a way to put them into dspy, and basically the judge is did the agent accurately work on, I don't know, accurately push back. I need to find some kind of metric to measure it against.
Yeah.
So that's why I was curious to hear Brett's thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, I think Yikes is right. Using LLM as a judge here would be ideal, because it's going to be hard otherwise. Maybe you're looking for certain words. That could be another way to write a metric, but it's going to be difficult writing a metric without using a model of some kind.
What about tool calls? Like if you call the calendar or something to set up an event. Like if you don't have all the data to set up the event, then the tool call would fail. So.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, that was my other thought. It was like you can just at the end of the conversation just like pick a like, hey, like now fill out the Google Calendar invite model, and then send that to the user and be like, hey, I'm putting this on your calendar now. Please stop me if you don't want me to. And then that way you would just get the user to correct it for you, basically.
Yeah, that could work well. The other one that comes to mind, I just saw an ad yesterday for a ChatGPT payments app called EPT Payments. And the idea was that it's an MCP that can make payments with like a credit card or with like a bank transfer, which I thought was crazy at the time. Because like in no scenario would I ever trust to have a deterministic enough output that the MCP use would be consistent. But this seems like it could actually perform like a controller function then, which is pretty cool. I think still you probably need that round of human review at the end, but really, really cool demo. Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely.
No problem. I also wanted to mention with React, you can feed in MCPs as tools and optimize the tool use there. So that's another option.
Yeah, I think that like one of the things that since you are writing an LLM call as you're writing it programmatically, so all of this stuff like chain of thought and MCP servers and tool calls, etc., those are programmatically defined within the dspy framework. So there are they're just less words to write, and then like it's very clear what slots into what and what doesn't, which is another kind of like nice little thing. But yes, thank you, Brad, for the schooling up on that.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I might, if I have time this weekend, I might try and run a little hack night or something for dspy and dspy related things. So I'll make some announcements if I end up making that happen. But
thanks, Brad.
yes,
I think dspy is kind of like, it's giving me Keras vibes.
it is.
Does
It's
anyone
very
remember?
Keras. It's very Keras. Yeah, I will say I will open floor for. Does anybody have any like final thoughts, things that they're interested to try, or that they are wondering or thinking or whatever, as a kind of little wrap up round, and then we'll cut the recording there.
Small teaser for next week. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
Just wanted to mention I put the repo in the comments here on the Discord. I can also post it on Twitter if you like.
Hell yeah, I'm down, super down. Just shoot me a link and we will.
Fantastic.
Retweeting. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Just one small before we go. I did have a demo prepared for Gemini subagents, but I'll save that one for next week. We went to a Gemini Agents Hackathon this weekend in SF, and had a good chat with the Gemini team, oddly, who are very keen to make the Gemini CLI like a competitor to Cloud Code, but it seems to be that it's quite behind at the moment. My experience with Gemini, which prompted the creation of this repo, which I'll share next week and do a proper demo, but Gemini refused to use either subagents on Gemini or to even call its own Bash CLI, which is preposterous because it has access to Bash CLI, but it actually has like a built-in rule that says don't use that, which I thought was absolutely terrible. So I have a cool demo for you guys next week that explains how to use, well, actually, I just created a wrapper for the Gemini CLI so that it doesn't know that it's using the Gemini CLI, and that seems to work quite well. So hopefully next week we'll have forums with Gemini, which have really cool research properties.
Speaking of research in Gemini, the thing that I mentioned at the beginning, which will be news to Alex, is we have our, I know we've been working on the Gemini research application, but I threw an application for the TPU research grant, and I just got an email this morning that says we are in, so we have some TPUs to play with in the very near future.
Oh yeah.
Indeed.
I love
Tribe Research Party.
There we go. The other thing that I will mention is I have a presentation tomorrow about the paper Recurrence Complete Frame-Based Action Models, which is Prime Intellect's most recent work, and managed to pick the brain of the author a little bit on that, which I think has some very interesting findings related to long context. But I dropped a link, which I will leave in the show notes, to where that is happening at, which is West Coast Machine Learning. Highly recommend. Very good meetup. And yes, also check out Brad's graph memory repo here, which we'll also leave in the notes. Absolutely.
Is West Coast Machine Learning low-key created by a guy at SRI?
What's SRI?
Okay, never mind.
Maybe? I don't know.
It was like it was the name of an internal group, so maybe it's that. What's the main guy who's
the people I know in West Coast ML are Jerry and Ted and Roger and a couple other professors from like Stanford and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Stanford research. Yeah, there are a couple of Stanford. Yeah, there's some professors from State. It's basically.
There you go. Okay. Amazing.
Yeah. No, it's extremely high caliber. Highly recommend. I will thank Baco for introducing me there.
Is it on Thursdays?
Yes. Yep. Thursday. So tomorrow night.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I was working inside of that.
Nice. Well, yeah, come to the meetup. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll come through. I didn't realize it was accessible to the public. Okay, cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a super. It's like pretty casual, but also like extremely high level, just because they're all like machine learning professors or whatever. Basically.
Oh, so we might have met there.
Absolutely.
Before.
Absolutely.
That's so sweet. Okay.
Cool. And then, yeah, last thing, latest tribe is out. NPX Xtribe CLI at latest is a good way to start keeping track of your logs and your agents and more figuring out what you have to learn and what you can learn and what you can use this nice little thing for. But more about that next week. I think we will go ahead and wrap it here. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. And we will see you, if not over the weekend, we will